I can hear you.
All right. So Gerald Celente, Trends Forecaster up in Kingston. I just got the new Trends Journal, Occupy Peace, May 2nd, 2015. It looks like you got a lot of big things coming up. What's on your mind now with all these midterm elections? Are you going to see any change? What's your feeling on all this?
Well, my feeling is that everyone should go back and watch Alex Jones' Obama deception. And it's played out. It should win an Academy Award because what we talked about in that movie, and you were up here to film it, it's all come true. It's just one big fraud followed by a mid-election fraud. I've been in this business. I began my career, by the way. I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County in New York, 1970s.
So you've seen the pageantry involved in all this and the pomp and circumstance and the BS that goes along with a campaign.
Yeah, and I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. In my entire life, I've never watched a midterm election that so many people cared so little about. There wasn't one major issue, yet they're estimated, what, 1.5 million TV ads, about $4 billion spent for what? To put in take out the incompetents and put in the inepts? I mean, it's more of the same, just different names, and much of the same has never left. You look at all the career politicians that still are, back in office again, never having a real job in their lives. So there's really, this is, again, everyone should go back and look at the Obama deception because it played out exactly like that. Obama's approval rating is at its lowest since he began the charade. The public is turned out and tuned out, and I'm wondering what the numbers are going to be because as watching the returns coming in all night, I haven't heard many of them. I predict it's going to be a very low voter turnout. So that's really what it is. It's just more of the same, but probably a little worse in some areas.
You know, aside from these elections for the incumbents and the challengers that are going on, there are some interesting GMO initiatives, the GMO labeling initiatives out west. There's a few medical marijuana and just legalization of recreational marijuana initiatives going on. Plus, there's also a lot of light rail stuff sprinkled in, stuff that'll take your money and raise your taxes in a heartbeat. A lot of that going on. Are you interested in any of those? Or are those trending in your area?
Of course I am, but but again, how many states with the GMO? What is it? Just a handful. And the same with the legalization of marijuana. I mean, that's one of the big, shams of all times. My God, this war on drugs that's just kept, throwing people in jail and filling up the prison industrial complex. Again, when you look at this, Rob, when you look at the entire aspect of the campaign, the elections, these are just little pockets. There's nothing really about the economy. There's really nothing about foreign policy. There's really nothing about anything. And so as I look at it, and looking at it as a trend forecaster, here's what I see. I see that if the Republicans come in, there'll be more of a push to war. Not that the Democrats were slowing it down much, but just a little bit more juice into it. And they're going to pass that Trans-Pacific Partnership gig, robbing more of our money so that the multinationals can make more of it by doing a trade deal. So they'll push that through. But it's the same. There's really not much difference. Again, the inepts are the incompetents, or I like to call them, rather than the Republicans and the Democrats, I'm more comfortable calling them the Bloods and the Crips because they're both murderers and thieves. They kill millions of people in the name of bringing freedom and democracy to sovereign nations, and they steal our dough every day from too big to fail or tax breaks for their buddies or whatever else they can make up.
And they arm terrorists, and then we have to go fight wars against the terrorists that we arm. They also ship in the drugs. You can look at Afghanistan. They're having record opium production right now. We're guarding those troops. We're helping them with fertilizer. We're We're helping them bring their crops to market. And then we're also the black ops stuff, the cocaine flying in from Central America. We're doing all this stuff, and it's our government. And then we're putting people in jail who use the stuff here. It's a great system that they've developed for us. Really amazing. Look at that, 7 billion U.S. campaign. Still doesn't quite hit the 20 billion that that all these agencies are using with the micro purchase credit cards. What do you think of that? 20 billion in 1 year spending on micro purchases is what they call them. Anything less than $3,000. I could use a few micro purchases every now and then. How about you?
Oh yeah, I saw that piece. Again, it's what I said. It's the Bloods and the Crips. They're murderers and thieves. How much more proof do people need? And then they throw out these 2-bit lines. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. Yeah, throw out the bums and bring in the scums. That's all it is.
Exactly.
So they call it a democracy. It's a gang of 535. That's all it is. And they don't represent us. They represent the special interests that give them all that dough, like the $4 billion that went into this charade. Again, I've never watched a campaign, a midterm election, where so many people cared so little. The fraud is in front of all of us. I'm surprised they didn't come out with an ISIS scare, a couple of hours before the election, or the booths opened up,
Right.
I was surprised they haven't pulled a fast one to get the people to the polls or throw some fear and hysteria in them.
Well, and the economy took a back seat in this election. Not a lot of people were talking about it, and that's something that's been on my mind. The economy really hasn't recovered from 2008. They keep saying the unemployment's going down, the economy's growing, they're stopping QE. What is the big deal now with stopping QE Infinity that they finally said they're going to put a hold on? Are they even really putting a hold on it, or is this just another sham?
There's something very interesting happening with that, by the way. First of all, they're keeping interest rates to record lows. And then when you look at the recovery, and you look at the data, for example, about how many new home buyers there are, the numbers really dropped significantly, and how many new multifamily dwellings are being built is skyrocketing compared to what it used to be. Go back to the QE. Here's a little set. We're coming out. I'm going to give you a breaking trend. It's going to be one of our top trends for 2015. I shouldn't do this, but I am.
That's all right. We're all friends here.
It's not capitalism. It's bankism. You look what happened when the Federal Reserve announced last Wednesday they were cutting out, finally, the quantitative easing. Bingo, voila. 2 days later, the Bank of Japan announces that they're going to go into quantitative easing plus. When you compare their GDP to our GDP, it would be the equivalent of the Federal Reserve dumping in $3 trillion. Oh, what a coincidence. It happened right after they announced in the States that they were cutting back their quantitative easing. And then tomorrow, watch what's going to happen over there in Europe, because the ECB, the European Central Bank, is meeting. See if they're going to do anything. This is a central bank takeover. It's not capitalism, it's bankism. You saw it with the too big to fails when they bailed out the banks. Again, they're murderers and thieves, the Republicans and the Democrats. You remember that guy, the U.S. Treasury Secretary under Bush? Was it Henry Paulson? I think he played Frankenstein on the B movies before he got the job at Goldman Sachs. Yeah, that guy who gave us too big to fail. Yeah, you remember the Obama administration that pushed it through. You remember the Clinton guys. Yeah, the other Goldman Sachs guy, Rubin. Yeah, little Robbie Rubin. Yeah, the guy that killed the Glass-Steagall Act so you could give the bankers more freedom to rob from us. The whole game is a banking game. It's in front of everybody's eyes. The Japanese just shoved it to us one more time, and they really stiffed their people over there. But you know those Japanese, man, they don't rebel. You think we got it soft over here where the people don't fight back. Over there, you know, they just keep bowing, man, and taking it. How about another Fukushima for you? So what I'm saying is what the Japanese bank, the Bank of Japan, just did on Friday is a criminal act followed by the criminal act of the takeover of our country by our central bank. That's only propped up the very rich. The numbers are there. Our median household income is below 1999 levels, and that 1% got a lot fatter and richer.
There you go. You said it. We're joined by Trends forecaster Gerald Celente. You can read more about him at trendsjournal.com, and we're going to get into his Trends Journal, the latest issue that's come out, in just a second. We've also got playing over here on the sidewall. It looks like Ted Cruz is giving a speech right now, stumping for Greg Abbott. They're bringing out all the stops now in the Republican pageantry. What did you say, Gerald? Politics is show business for what?
Ugly people.
There you go. You said it.
That's all it is.
You got it there. But we are going to, whenever Greg Abbott whenever they bring him out at some point, we are going to go to a little bit of his speech, see what he says, see if he's going to have any meaningful change for us, see if he'll hit hard on immigration, all the illegal immigration that's going on. Is he going to hit hard on the border, closing the border up? Is he going to hit hard on the taxes that they're charging people here? Alex is really up on this franchise tax that they've started laying onto him, and it's really cut into the money that he's made and tried to put in back into this business. He can't put as much in because it's being taxed. So giant corporations around Texas can be brought in and be given free water, free electricity, no property taxes. That's the way they work it here. It's everything is done for these giant corporations so they can bring more people in and start charging taxes on them. I mean, you've seen the way it works, Gerald. Let's go into your Trends Journal, Occupy Peace, except we've got a lot of war going on here. I've noticed some really interesting things. You're looking back at Iraq. You've got fears, history repeating itself on page 8. It looks like we've kind of failed in Iraq by going in there and destroying it and then not really rebuilding it. You've got your Rally for Peace coming up at the oldest intersection in America, which we've talked about before. I've actually seen this intersection, seen the buildings. It really does exist, and there you are, a picture of you standing there in it. And then at the very end of the Trends Journal, and people can subscribe to this by going to trendsjournal.com, you've got some history lessons. Look back to see what's ahead. It ain't pretty. No denying what history's trying to teach us. You've got the warrior stage, intellectual stage, merchant stage, and chaos stage, the different stages societies go through as the cycle continues, the cycle of life, basically the way things happen. Where do you want to start in the Trends Journal?
Well, you know, let's look at the wars. It's one failure after another. How many more failures do we have to add up? How many more people have to die? How many more of our soldiers have to come home in a situation where they're committing, what, 22 suicides a day, and our veterans aren't taken care of, sending them into these fruitless wars, built on lies, by the way. And when you go, you know, I'm of the Vietnam era, and I remember the Gulf of Tonkin story that turned out to be a great lie that, what, killed over about 60,000 of our troops.
Yeah, it filled a sports stadium, a modern sports stadium. You could fit the number of men that died, and that doesn't even count the number of Vietnamese that we killed, or the number of guys that came back wounded and totally destroyed with broken limbs, broken heads. I mean, it really did destroy a whole generation of men there. And for what? A lie. It was all based on a lie. The Gulf of Tonkin, look it up. It was a total lie, and it was made up to make this war and escalate it.
Right, and then the Korean War, another losing war before that. And then, of course, you had the Afghan War. We did on the last Trends Journal, the summer edition, we did a piece on George Bush's his 9/11 evening speech and the one several days later. And I wrote that only a madman would speak these words, and only a nation dumbstruck with fear would believe them, and believe they did. There was not one fact in his speech that took us to war against Afghanistan. Not one. And everybody waved those flags and tied yellow ribbons to everything that didn't move. Now we're in the longest war in American history. And for what? A total failure? Oh, not for what. You made the point. Hey, the opium biz is really booming now. It was at zero when the Taliban were there, or near or thereabouts, way below. And let's not forget who created all this. Oh, that peace-loving peanut farmer. Yeah, you remember him, Jimmy Carter. Oh, yeah, that great guy who invented the Mujahideen. Yeah, Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, ISIS. Yeah, one generation after another. Created by Carter, Brzezinski, and all of the other psychopaths and sociopaths that are running the show to beat the Russians. You remember that one. And then, of course, there's the Iraq War, built on lies. Well, let's just call them the facts were wrong. Saddam Hussein did not have weapons of mass destruction nor ties to Al-Qaeda. But yet we went in anyway, and then they roll out these losers, man, like Cheney and Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz, and they repeat the same stupid lies, and the prostitutes bow down, suck up, and swallow them. The world is better off without Saddam Hussein. Oh, yeah, man, Iraq's a lovely place. It's beautiful. Oh, and let's not forget Libya. Oh, Libya, oh, Libya. Who did that one? The Nobel Peace Prize winner. Yeah, Obama. You remember that humanitarian mission brought to us by Hillary Clinton, Samantha Powers, and Susan Rice, and Barack Obama destabilized the entire area.
Yeah.
They're telling people now in Benghazi to leave because it's a free-for-all. And it's spreading into Tunisia, into Egypt, into Mali, all over. People are flooding into Europe. You want to talk about an immigration problem? Yeah, thanks to the United States and its NATO flunkies. So every war that they have taken us to has not only caused more disaster, it's drained our treasury.
And that's by design, Gerald. That's totally by design, to get us into these wars, to spread us out, and then we become ripe picking for the bank. The bankers can come in and just do whatever they want to us. And it really is disgusting. It really is disgusting. Now, where do you see, with this new crop of senators and congressmen coming in, it looks like there's going to be a GOP majority. Where do you see that, aside from Africa? Do you think we're going to start going into Africa, and especially in West Africa, where we're already established a beachhead thanks to Ebola? Where do you see us going in after this?
Well, what they're going to do, one of the things they're going to do, they'll probably kill that Iran deal that they're trying to do now, that Obama administration is trying to push through. And again, you know, I just want to jump back to something you said about the taxes in Texas. Yeah. And how, you know, they're hurting the little people while the big guys get all the breaks. You saw that guy Obama, that guy, yeah, Obama, no, the other Obama with the L in it. The guy that, you know, from Microsoft bought one of those basketball teams. Yeah, that guy's worth, you know, several $1 billion, like maybe 15. They gave him $1 billion tax break for buying it. And then you pick up the news this week. The guy Malone that owns Liberty Media, name like the huge one. He gets tax breaks all over the place, too. It is a banking takeover. And you're bringing it back when you said, yeah, this is a banking deal, puts us deeper in debt, and then we have to work for the multinationals, and they pay us nothing. So what we're doing with Occupy Peace right here, and you were here from by the way, we own 3 of those buildings on the historic corner. What we're doing is we're going back to the roots of the founding fathers, every one of them, beginning with Washington. A real man, not one of these little boys that can't fight their way out of a paper bag or play a mediocre game of golf and like to play basketball. or over there in England, maybe cricket. This is a real man that fought in the war, Washington. He said in his farewell address, no foreign entanglements. Franklin, no foreign entanglements. Madison, Adams, one after another. And guess what? The world was at war then too. But they built America. And I'm tired of these people saying, oh, they did this, they were terrible. If you don't like it here, leave. This country became great because of the principles and the Constitution that was developed here that so much of the once free world used to copied as a template for their freedom. Of course, here it's been taken away from us, but that's another story. Right across from me, right on the other side of this camera, is the courthouse. This was the first capital of New York State that the Constitution of New York was written. 4 Supreme Court justices were jurors there, including John Jay. 90% of America's Constitution came from the Constitution from colonial Kingston, New York. We're bringing back democracy. The seeds of democracy was sown here, and 6 words killed it. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. And the first criminal, may he rot in hell, who sold us out was the Princeton president, Woodrow Wilson, who not only gave us the Federal Reserve, he also put us into World War I against everything that this nation believed in.
And I was just about to bring that up.
Who's running the show now?
I was going to bring that up, Gerald.
Guys.
That's when we got into our first big foreign entanglement after we had, developed our sovereignty, was World War I. And that was the beginning of this long slide of being beholden to the Federal Reserve, being beholden to giant banks who aren't elected. It's just and the giant military-industrial complex now that they get paid either way, whether we win the war or lose the war, whether we continue the war. They're making their money, and I guess the people working in that industry are getting paid. But it's not anything that's producing anything. It's not a space industry. We've pretty much given that up for a couple rockets now that can't even get off the ground. It's just a disgrace that we can build these amazing weapons that can be fired from 20, 30 miles away, can pinpoint a house, and yet we can't get rockets off the ground now. I mean, it's a total disgrace.
People can't pay their water bills.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So Occupy, I mean, you nailed it. So that's what we're saying. And again, I really want to stay with this Harvard, Princeton, Yale. I'm tired of these arrogant people, all in politics, telling us what to do and how to do it. Go up and down the list. The program is there. They're all club members, whether it's the DC gang or the Wall Street criminal operation. It's the same club, and we're not in it. So what we're doing with Occupy Peace is going back to the roots of democracy, believing in the founding fathers. Oh, and by the way, another man, not like these little boys in the White House that we've had, the Clintons, Bushes, and Obamas. A real man, Eisenhower, in his farewell address, warns the nation that the military-industrial complex is robbing us of the future of the children, the sweat of the laborers, and the genius of the scientists. And you nailed it with these high-class weaponry that they're making. Could you imagine if those trillions were invested in we, the people? So Occupy Peace, the motive is no foreign entanglements, rebuild America, and here's where it's going to be different from anywhere of any rally ever seen before. We're going to give takeaways. This isn't a thing to go, yeah, and then you go home and forget about it. We're putting together a battle plan for peace, because I would rather fight for peace than die for war. And I'm not a pacifist, as you well know.
You're a close combat practitioner. Exactly.
I'll kill anybody that tries to kill me.
I totally agree. Hey, let's end here on the Trends Journal. You have this Cycles of History. Why don't you give people a quick history lesson of the different stages that societies go through, and what stage are we in right now?
You got them there in front of you.
I got them in front of me. I got the warrior stage, the intellectual stage, the merchant stage, and the chaos stage. Now, where are we at right now?
We're in the chaos stage.
All
As I
right.
said, the warriors are gone. The intellectuals were the founding fathers. These guys that are in place now know nothing about anything. We're in the chaos stage. And by the way, one of the things that I would love is for you, Alex Jones, and the crew to come to the Four Corners on May 2nd, 2015, and broadcast live for OccupyPeace.us. And anybody could go to that site, by the way, and sign up, because our future is on the line. I'm a trend forecaster, and I believe in the trend, the prophecy that Einstein, going back to the chaos theory of the cycles, Einstein said, I don't know how the Third World War will be fought, but the fourth will be fought with sticks and stones. And that's where they're leading us. One losing war after another, and now they're getting big.
I totally agree. And it is a crazy world that we're becoming into, the chaos that we've created by taking down these evil dictators that were, essentially keeping the different tribes under control. Gaddafi, yeah, he was a socialist, but you know what? He was feeding his people. They had power. They were getting water. They were doing deals with the Chinese. He wanted to create an African Union. So what do? We take him out. Same thing with Saddam Hussein. Oh, yeah, we sold him weapons of mass destruction. He has weapons of mass destruction. So we got to go in and take him out. But, we don't talk about the weapons of mass destruction that we sold him. And then it came out that we found weapons of mass destruction there, but we didn't want to say anything about it because they had our stamp of approval on it. They were all made in the USA. So, of course, they're never going to mention that stuff. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And we keep buying into it. We keep buying into the next war. We buy into the next fake terrorist attack. It just continues on a cycle. And like you said, we are in the chaos stage right now in our history, and it's filled with drones and cameras. And guess what? We're all walking around with cameras. It looks like they're about to bring out Greg Abbott. Gerald, do you want to stay with us while they bring him out and comment on what's going on, or do you want us to let you go for the evening?
Why don't we let me go for the evening?
All right. Well, tell us where we can find more of the Trends Journal. And did you see Anthony Freda got his piece of artwork accepted, his 9/11 truth piece, into the 9/11 museum? Did you see that bit of news that was out there?
Isn't that great news? Yeah, Anthony Freda is great. Yeah, and of course, he's an illustrator for us, and you guys use him as well. And I know he's been on with Alex. Trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. It's the only place where you read history before it happens. And for all of those of you that want to fight for peace, bring home the troops, seal the borders, rebuild America, OccupyPeace.us, sign up, give us your comments, and let's turn this around. Let's bring it back to we the people and take it out of the hands of the gang of 535 that they call Congress.
All right, and I'll leave you with that, Gerald. Thanks for everything you do. And anytime, we love having you on. You're a great breath of fresh air to just really just wake people up with some energy. A guy your age still out there screaming about the system and the way things should be and where we've gone wrong and everything else included. And thanks for joining us here on our live midterm election coverage. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thanks a lot for having me.